Halloween
forever.
What do cannibals use to freshen their breath?
What?
I don't know, Brian.
Mentos. Welcome to another fucking Minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve.
He seems like I'm
pensive
Steve.
about that.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the joke. How, like, that's a little. It's a little too dark for a popsicle stick.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering where you got that one from.
I'll never tell. Boys and ghouls, we are going to talk about a brand new fucking movie tonight. One that I went in absolutely blind to. I mean, the movie title, you can kind of, glean what type of movie it is from the title, perhaps. But I mean, aside from that, I knew nothing about it. Did you guys know anything about this flick going into it?
Not at all.
I still haven't said the title. The audience doesn't even know what we're talking about. They don't even know what the title is yet. The movie is called, it is a Hulu original from the year of our Lord, 2022. It's called Fresh. And you might be able to guess from that name, it's a cannibal flick, but an unconventional cannibal flick, I would say.
I don't know if I would have guessed that initially, because I feel like if it was flesh, I would have been like, yes, absolutely cannibal. But I still thought it was interesting.
If it was called
movie.
like People Eating People, that would have been a dead giveaway.
It's too far.
Yeah, that would have been a dead giveaway. But
Does this taste funny?
This taste funny. Do you know where that came from?
Yeah, but it's not called, it's not in the, 70s exploitative, cannibal Holocaust kind of vein where, it's
like more sophisticated cannibalism.
Yeah, but you mean white people is what you mean. Right. You're racist.
I didn't get racist
I
on that.
know what you meant. We all know what you meant. No, it is a very different narrative, and we'll get into it here in a damn sec. Don't rush me. We got to talk about other things. First of all, we got beers. Are you guys familiar with beers? Do you have any of them currently?
I have heard of beers.
I might be drinking a beer. Yeah.
What do you got?
I'm still sipping on all my Austin beers, and I'm drinking a Schwartz beer from Live Oak. Guys, I'm trying to save some for you. I'm trying. I'm doing my damnedest.
Yeah. By drinking them.
By drinking them.
I'm doing my damnedest to not drink them, but I'm failing miserably because I'm in fact drinking them. I know the feeling. Don't worry. Yeah, I think I've had their Schwartz beer. Isn't it just called Schwartz or something?
Something like that. I wouldn't know. I got all these like unlabeled cans, in a 6-pack.
Gotcha.
But I think it's just called Schwartz or Schwartz beer or something like that.
Yeah. Listen, you ain't gonna go wrong with little crispy loggy boys from Live Oak. That's for sure. Steve, what do you got?
I have Abjuration's matcha tea milkshake.
Oh, yeah. You gave me one of those, didn't you?
I might have. I don't know. Did you drink it?
I did.
Okay.
Because I remember, I think you must have gave it to me because I did enjoy it, but not something I would typically buy.
Right.
But it was in my fridge and I drank it, and I'm pretty sure it came from you. Was it Abjuration? I think it was.
Well, yeah. Abjuration's like the only one I can think of in the area that does a green tea anything.
Yeah.
But it tastes like you ever been to the Starbucks? You get one of those green tea frappuccinos. That's what it tastes like, but it's beer.
Yeah, my uncle, my late uncle, used to call frappes from anywhere. Remember McDonald's had frappes for a second.
Mm-hmm.
He used to call them frappies. I always got a kick out of that.
I'm never not gonna see that now.
You didn't say you're trying one of them frappies. Nope, hadn't tried one yet.
Nope.
I am drinking a beer. It's a new one. It's a new one that's hot on the streets right now, I'm told. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Pilsner Kell.
Oh my gosh. Have you ever had that before?
I am trying it for the first time. I feel pretty good about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like Brian has to start drinking Pilsner or Kell at like different serving styles.
Yeah.
Like he has to start drinking at different temperatures, putting in like
different glasses.
Yeah, different glasses. Here's Pilsner Urkel with Kool-Aid. Here's Pilsner Urkel, like served over bread.
I like dust cinnamon on top or do something fucking dumb. I actually hadn't had one in nigh on a couple of weeks now. So I had to pop a couple. Also, I had only drinking Sly Fox beers prior to that, so now I'm going back to the other beer that I only drink because I don't have any Notch Brewing. Actually, that's not true. I do have a little bit, a couple Von Trapp beers down in the fridge. I kind of forgot about till this very moment, which I love their stuff. Another lager brewer from Vermont. Do a healthy Dunkel lager, which I appreciate very much. But just going with the old Pilsner this time around. I failed to mention at the top of the show, we're actually recording this early in the week, much earlier in the week than we normally do, because your boy's going out of town a little bit, going down to Nashville, gonna do a little honky tonkin', do a little square dancing.
I'd like to picture you like actively seeking out one of those mechanical bowls and then doing a little like line dancing.
Yeah.
That's what I think you do when you go on vacation.
Well, if I come back with a back brace, you know why. That's the case. Because I was murdered by a machine. No, I have been on the mechanical bulls a couple of times, but it has been, good decade plus. And I don't know if my old brittle bones could deal with it anymore. Back in the day, though, boy, I would have been out there. I mean, I would have been just absolute piss ass drunk down at what's that place down in Station Square? The cowboy bar that used to be down there. The sloppiest place on earth. Saddle Ridge.
There you go.
Yeah, I went down. I've been down at Saddle Ridge, just piss drunk, ripping shots of Wild Turkey. Those days are behind me, guys. Those days are behind me.
That's the most non-American like whiskey to drink at a very American bar.
Why is Wild Turkey not American?
It's Canadian whiskey.
What?
Isn't Wild Turkey Canadian whiskey? Am I fucking that one up?
You
Crown
are
Royal is
royally
Canadian.
fucking that up.
Oh, okay.
Wild Turkey is goddamn straight bourbon whiskey.
Oh, I see that. That's my bad.
Yeah. Matthew McConaughey somewhere is very disappointed in you.
Sorry, I don't get down on some. What is? I am thinking about like I do now want to know what.
You mean Canadian
whiskey.
Club?
Maybe. Well, that has Canadian in it. Jesus
You're probably
Christ.
thinking like either Crown Royal or maybe Black Velvet.
No, neither
Black
of those. That
BV
was
shots.
not.
I did get down on some BV shots on occasion.
It's gonna bother me. I'll think about it. I might Google
Are
it.
you talking about the shit? What's it called? I want to say something grouse or something like that. It's another game bird.
Is
Now that
Bird
I'm-
Dog American?
See.
Just to check.
It sounds like it. I don't know.
Yeah, I do like Bird Dog, but I don't know. I can't think if it's American. I assume it is.
Wild Turkey 101. That is my go-to kind of cocktail bourbon.
That was a good one.
Which are pretty much all of my bourbon is cocktail bourbon. I'm not necessarily a sipping bourbon kind of guy. I do occasionally, but I really I like Wild Turkey because you know what I like? Little bourbon and ginger ale. It sticks. It's kind of stands up to the ginger ale, all right, and it's cheap. Which I can't complain about. Back to the story. We are. Oh, did you find what it is?
Bird Dog. No, Bird Dog is definitely Kentucky. Sorry. No, I at least got that one. I was still just looking up. I'll keep going.
Let me know when we'll throw it back down to man on the street with the bourbon report. But we have
Fucking Canadian whiskey.
this this particular episode we're recording a little bit early because, like I said, your boy's going to go do a little honky-tonkin'. So we do not have, although Steve may insert in here what ends up winning for the old Showdown episode for April. But I will remind you that our options were Bigfoot horror, British horror, and Monsters from the Deep. Now, by the time you hear this, we will have already decided this.
Bigfoot movies.
But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go on the social medias and follow us so you can help us vote next time or provide some suggestions for us for topics, for showdowns or for minisodes, or you just want to see some goddamn spooky shit on the internet. You can follow us at Halloween is Forever on Instagram, Hallow Forever on Twitter. It is Halloween is Forever Podcast on Facebook, at Halloween is Forever Pod on TikTok, or Halloween is Forever Pod at gmail.com on the email. So, yeah, if you don't already, listen, like I said, we're approaching 10,000 followers. Would love to see a 10,000 follower situation here in the coming weeks. I don't know what happens at 10,000 followers. I think they just start sending you checks in the mail. Is that how it works? Mm-hmm. Is that how people buy all their fancy stuff?
I think you get a full tracksuit from Instagram. Ooh. I think that's what you get.
Nice.
You get like a little plaque that says you did it. Yeah. And then you get like special access to a club that's also 10,000 whatever.
Yeah. And then you get to eat people, right? That's what happens at 10,000?
Yeah.
If I get to 10,000 followers on Instagram and don't get to eat anybody, I'm going to be furious.
You get that $30,000 meatball. Yeah. That's what you get.
Well, yeah. What it is you actually just get like a discount code for the subscription box. So you can get like people salami at 30% off.
Nice. So 30% off $30,000. That's a goddamn bargain.
Not bad.
Listen, times are tough. We got to pinch our pennies where we can, especially when consuming human meat. Guys, we are talking about this evening, like you said, a little movie called Fresh. Streaming, Hulu original. Hulu, although there's been a couple things that have popped up in recent months that I do enjoy on the Hulus, don't necessarily turn to Hulu for horror. No. So I don't know if this came into like this kind of, I guess, benefited from going in with low expectations, but I'll tell you right off the bat, I like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed this one a lot as well.
Yeah, really well acted, I thought. Really unique story. You really didn't necessarily know where it was going to go. I mean, you obviously knew there was some sort of like showdown. There was certainly a build-up type of situation, but just a little bit of a kind of high point overview of this. So the here I have her up here. I guess I'm going to forget her name, but the woman who played Noah, her name is Daisy Edgar-Jones. Yeah, and surprised to learn she was and maybe if I rewatched it, it wouldn't be as surprising, or I guess it wouldn't. It would be maybe a little bit more obvious. I don't know, but she's British, but it didn't come across as like a bad American accent at all. So like she sounded very, very natural to me. Now I would go back and listen to it maybe with a little bit more critical ear. I don't know, but did either of you know that going in or notice that was the case?
No, but Sebastian, the guy who plays Steve or Brendan, is Romanian from what I saw too. So like I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, he to me it felt like he was doing a Bill Burr impression. Like he sounded exactly like Bill Burr.
That's funny.
Really?
I feel like I need to rush him. Like
I got the real feeling that like if this movie was made 10 years ago, it would have been Sam Rockwell instead of Sebastian Stan.
Okay.
Yeah. Could be. I could see a Dennis Leary in a situation like this as well. I don't know why.
He stinks.
Maybe it's just the Boston. You know, like a Dennis Leary guy.
No.
I don't know if many people are a Dennis Leary guy nowadays. But go back and even just pop it on, just if you feel like it, out of curiosity. Boy, does this guy sound like Bill Burr?
You know who also would have been a good character for him? And sorry, he just literally reminds me of the one brother who played on Weeds. Do you remember his name?
I didn't watch Weeds.
Okay.
I vaguely remember. Is it the one that was played by
Justin Kirk? Justin Kirk kind of looks like him. I feel like, if we're talking past, he would have. It almost has that good looking but mysterious, a little bit quirky. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from him too.
Okay.
Yeah, he. I think they both. I mean, they're by far the two biggest characters. Also, Daisy Edgar-Jones plays Noah. She is the lead character. Sebastian. Stan plays Steve, who is, of course, the bad guys you might expect. Molly, her friend, played by Joe. Oh, by the way, Daisy Edgar-Jones. I have not seen her in anything else. She hasn't been in a ton of stuff. She's relatively new on the scene, from what I understand. I was just reading up briefly, and it did look like she'd done a lot of like stage acting in London. Kind of classically trained actor, it seems like.
She's young, but I think has almost like a familiar face, I think, in ways.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, she kind of looks like Zooey Deschanel.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But she looks like somebody else too, but I can't place it yet.
I think the thing with this movie that's really interesting is, like, with the exception of Sebastian Stan, even the director and the writer, this is all pretty like big for all of them.
Yeah.
Because the director and the writer, I think this is both their first feature. And then everybody else seems to have, all the other actors seem to have like smaller parts on films or have been on TV. Yeah. But this seems to be like big for all of them.
Yeah, I should mention director is Mimi Cave and writer Lauren Kahn. And again, had to look them up. Hadn't been exposed to anything else by them. But like I said, first one out of the gate. Strong. I didn't recognize Sebastian Stan, but apparently he's in like all the Marvel movies and stuff.
Yeah, he's the Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay. I don't have not seen any of them. Would have loved to have seen them, missed them. And then Andrea Bang, who plays Penny, who you don't see until way into the third act. She has actually been in a few things. I feel like I have seen her pop up on stuff before, but pretty small cast overall. There's like an ex-boyfriend of Molly who plays a significant part, but I actually thought it was kind of interesting what kind of how his storyline played out. There is Anne, who is Steve's wife, I guess. They never really come out and say it, but that seems to be the case. In any case, here's what happens, right? We got Noah. She is, single young woman living in the city, kind of on and off dating, not really into the whole dating scene type of thing. You start out with her dating or on a what assume was made some sort of Tinder connection or whatever like that with a guy who I would assume is not coincidentally named Chad. He is fucking insufferable, like over the top insufferable. And she, they basically she bails on the date. They tell each other to fuck off. That was about it. You never see Chad again. I was hoping for some Chad to show up later and get eaten or something like that, but it didn't happen. Because
he shows up at the very, very end.
Just like in a text message, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you up. Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh. I feel like it was just I think it was like a good representation, but not over the top or like annoying representation of like dating today. So it made it relatable of like her frustration and like why she's just like, you know what? Screw this. Just going to go for this thing that doesn't feel right necessarily.
Yeah, so again, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, but she meets just on a chance meeting, or what she perceives to be a chance meeting at a grocery store. She meets Steve, this charming, funny guy, whatever. Hey, can I have your phone number? Sure. They start hanging out, they start dating, and you come to realize eventually in what was, I thought, a pretty chilling scene, because that he is kidnapping her, right? And kind of keeping her as a means by which to harvest human meat, and keep her alive, and and cut off parts of her body to sell to these like psychotic billionaire weirdos who like to eat people. And that is his whole thing. Him and his wife, that's what they do. They have multiple women captive at any one given time, and they are cannibals, and they service the uber wealthy cannibal community, I guess, by purveying to them fine human meats.
I feel like I wish, or it could be another good like sequel or prequel to this, is understanding Anne's part, because clearly she was also one of his captives.
Well, so I took that as that was definitely what they were looking to portray, because you come to learn early on, because she's very much playing, or they are positioning her as she is like a victim, right? And I thought that because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, I think you're jumping ahead a little bit too far, because that's another good turn that happens in the film.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, she starts to let her guard down, right? Around Steve, they start to become very friendly, very kind of hot and heavy and romantic very early on. And her instinct is to kind of push away from this, but she's going against her better instincts, and also, I think, trying to, in her mind, like take the advice of her best friend Molly, who is a little bit more, somebody who I think wields a little bit more power in her relationships, maybe, I don't know, but also kind of throws caution to the wind a little bit in her romantic life, and she's trying to mimic that. And she says, and that's kind of a theme they kept saying, is like, hey, just, fuck it, I'm gonna go do it, kind of thing. So the first, you don't really know what's going on early on, and the thing I like the most about this movie, at least in the first half of the film, basically, is you are kind of along for the discovery portion of this all with the characters, specifically with Noah, but also Steve to a certain extent, because you're obviously following Noah, and you are at first like, don't talk to this guy, he's a fucking creep. And then she seems to have good judgment, so you're like, well, maybe he's not. Maybe she, you don't know anything, but maybe I wasn't convinced that she wasn't the one that was going to eat him, at some point, because I knew nothing about it going in. I just knew that it was a cannibal movie.
Right.
Or maybe those two combined were going to get abducted or something. I have no idea, right? So you're kind of, you don't know that Steve is the bad guy necessarily, or at all for a big portion of it. So you're kind of feeling him out along with Noah, and then you're I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of back and forth a couple times. I
was on the train that Noah might be a cannibal, just from that first scene with Chad.
Yeah.
Because Chad is so insufferable, and it's like, oh, he is fodder to get killed. Like,
that's what I thought too.
And I was like, is she just gonna like lure him back? And, dispose of him other ways, like not, he has no purpose in a romantic sense, but maybe he's food.
That's what I thought too. That's why I was thinking that maybe she was going to be the one that was the candidate, and ultimately she is, but not in the way you think she is. But
I really didn't get that vibes. I feel like maybe it was like feminine instincts, but I was like, no, this Steve guy definitely, especially with like how forward he was in the way he did it. It almost was like in this stalking way, not like a stalking way, but a stalking his prey type way. I kind of got those vibes from it. And like even just the way that we learned more about her, like through the beginning versus like learning anything about him. So I always felt like there was this sense that there was another layer we weren't being exposed to. That's why I didn't think it was her. What I did think in general was like, oh, well, what if they like kind of do fall in love? Maybe it's something that they do together, type thing. But that was the only thing I think was like yet to be uncovered for me regarding that.
There's like one shot in before the actual turn happens, and like Steve reveals himself as, you know, the danger that he is. But there's one shot where the two of them are sharing a meal in her apartment, and it's just a very close-up shot of his lips, and he's like licking like sauce off his lips, and it's very menacing in a way. And
I thought that they were setting us up for a twist, though, and that she was getting, you know.
So they had a similar shot earlier in which, before Noah's date with Chad, she's checking her teeth, and her teeth are a little sharp. I don't know if they added that in some way of like a prosthetic or a digital, but she has like some sharp teeth, and she's checking them in a mirror, which is, you know, kind of predatory in a way. But it's just like the way they linger on the way he's licking. I think like after that point where Noah is established as, you know, because she's fearful of the person that's behind her, and she's kind of established as more of a weakling because of the way she's at the gym. So it kind of lost it for me. But then just that one shot of like Steve licking his lips like an animal, you know, it before the turn is like, oh, this guy's the danger.
It took me a while to get over the person putting their finger in the milk at the grocery store. Like that was one of the grosser, creepier parts to me. Is she's at the grocery store and there's all these fucking weirdo creeps hanging around, and one of them is just like this guy. I can't remember if it's even a man or woman, but they're sitting there and they pulled the lid off of, I don't know what it is. It looks like it could be like milk or some sort of dairy product, and is just sticking their finger in it and licking their finger in the grocery store. And that was alarming in a lot of ways. You know, one thing leads to another. They're, you know, kind of making out. They end up hooking up. And, you know, at this point, my question was, okay, who's getting eaten here? Right? Somebody's going to get eaten. And then, like I said, back and forth. But then when he said something about going away, I was like, oh boy, no, this guy's sus. And then when he shows up to take her and he's like, oh, we're going. And you know, he's in the car and he's telling her about where they're going to go and all this stuff. And he says something along the lines of like, hey, we're going to leave first thing in the morning, so we're going to stay at my place tonight. And he had already stayed at her place, but it's the first time she's going to his place, from what I can kind of understand. Or no, that's definitely the case, because she even says like, you know, she's like surprised at his place. You know, she knows that he has told her that that he is a doctor, but he has this very, you know, extravagant, you know, kind of home. So, but the scene where like the drugs start kind of taking hold, because he's obviously drugged her, and when he's going like, oh, there's a special ingredient in it, and she's guessing it and keeps drinking it faster, I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely no good. This is no bueno. And then of course she like passes out and he just sits there, and you're just like, no, it is exactly what we thought it was the whole time. He's a fucking creep. And
then the credits start a half hour in.
33 minutes in, you get the title card and the credit sequence, which was got to be a record of some sort.
You'd think, but I just watched Drive My Car, which is up for an Oscar. That movie is 3 hours long, and the credits don't start till 40 minutes in.
Oh, wow. Buddy, oh boy. 40 minutes in.
But
Jesus.
But it's interesting, though, because in both films, they both serve a purpose of separating action. In Drive My Car, spoilers for that movie, how about that? It separates the death of a character. And so it goes from a period in this character's life with his wife to the period in time without his wife. And in this movie, it separates the period of time of like safety, and we think Steve might be a good guy, to definite peril for Noah. Yeah. So it's interesting how both films have that parallel.
I was curious. I'm glad you mentioned that you saw it somewhere else, because that was the first thing when I noticed that. I was like, there has to be some significance in that. Like, basically, we have our introduction, and then all of a sudden we have our credits to like to open this up. But I was curious. It almost seemed like they were maybe pulling that from something else in a way. But I didn't know what other movies could have been like that.
Yeah, it's a not common used device, but I've seen it twice in the past couple months. So
Yeah, it was pretty. The whole scene was, I thought, was really effective because you kind of knew that it was him, right? That he had kind of lured her into this situation and stuff. But the thing that, for me at least, like, you wanted to trust her judgment and you wanted her to be right, kind of thing, you know. So you're like, you kind of knew he was drugging her at that point, but you didn't want to believe it, kind of. You know what I mean? So it was.
Well, you know what? You know what? Like, even in you saying that, though, I feel like they were driving the point home where she just kept on saying "fuck it" instead of like trusting her instincts in other ways. So I feel like maybe, I don't know exactly what they'd be saying there, but that kept on popping out in my ears, that she would kept on going back to anything that felt weird or different or odd or like out of her comfort zone. She kept on saying "fuck it" to, and then this happened.
Yeah. I didn't know which way they were going to go because, like, if anybody who listens to, you know, true crime podcasts and stuff like that, you know, that's something that's a kind of a mantra you hear over and over again is, you know, hey, trust your gut, you know, don't fuck being polite, you know what I mean? Just get the fuck out of there. Don't put yourself in a situation, even if it's, you're worried about being embarrassed, and, you know, like the compulsion to like to not be rude sometimes can like overwhelm your self-preservation, oddly enough. Like, your fear of being rude or awkward is even worse, and like people like this prey on that. So I didn't know which direction they were going to go, if they were going to be like, no, you know, because it almost felt a little bit when she just kept saying "fuck it" because she was trying to like live her life and, you know, be more, because she talked about how she'd been, you know, kind of so used to being alone and she didn't like dating and all this sort of thing. So like, it almost felt a little, I don't want to say like victim blamey, but it was kind of like oh, you shouldn't have said "fuck it." You should have you should have trusted your instinct type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But they already established at the beginning of the film that, like you were saying, Brian, like Noah does have that compulsion to not make things awkward or let people, you know, like be rude to people, because during that date with Chad, like he puts his dumbass scarf in the food and she could have just left it happen and let his scarf get even more ruined. But no, she told him about it. And then like, even all the way through, she was being nice and not trying to be rude and not just tell this dude to fuck off. And then at the end, it gets her Chad yelling at her and like being a real dickhead to her.
Right.
So,
but I still, at the same time, and I don't know if this is something you guys have been exposed to, but like literally that scenario is something that you hear all the time about, especially going through like people on these dating apps. Is like, yeah, you like don't give into a dude, or you don't give that dude what he wants, and then he just calls you a bitch and then leaves, you know? Like I hear that all the fucking time. So that's why I was like that. I didn't really read too much into it, besides that they were just literally making this a relatable scene to the point to get her to a place where she's like, you know what, I'm tired of this same old bullshit. Fuck it, let me just try something different.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. Yeah, it definitely was a like they wanted to demonstrate the monotony of like online dating, and, you know, why she would be more open to what she viewed as a very non-traditional, you know, way of meeting someone. Like, she even goes as far as to say to her friend, like, do people, like, I didn't even know people met like that anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in any case, this kind of turn happens where she drugs him, then she wakes up. She is kind of shackled to the floor in this kind of weird, kind of fancy mid-century modern like holding cell. And one thing that's really creepy about this Steve as a villain is he is very matter of fact about everything, and he's very like empathetic's not the right word, but he kind of has enough emotional intelligence to understand what, you know, and frankly experience with victimizing people like this, that he knows what she's, at least to a certain extent, understands the emotions that she's going through and has seen it before enough to kind of like cater to what he knows she is likely to be going through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a doctor, he would probably have some sort of bedside manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. So he's obviously this like sociopath, you know, unhinged guy, but not in very dissimilar to, you know, this isn't Buffalo Bill. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know, this guy is kind of very much, I mean, yes, he's rationalized all the things that he's done. But he is much more composed and, like I said, has a lot more, at least, perception of emotional intelligence, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it just interesting. We started getting to it when after he drugged her and brought her to his other spot where he actually does all of the work. I don't know why I phrased it that way. The work.
But it
is his job.
Portrayed.
That's his job.
Yeah, it is portrayed as work, and like there's this film is also a dark comedy. You know, we didn't really say that, but like it's a black comedy, and there are some funny scenes of like Steve on his own, like doing the work of his Illuminati masters.
Yeah.
And almost for some reason, like shades of Nick Cage a little bit to me during those scenes when he's like dancing and singing as he's packing boxes with dry ice and vacuum sealed human meat.
Yeah.
He's doing it almost like gleefully.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of something you'd see Nicolas Cage doing for some reason.
Yeah. I think I just found like the development of like, you clearly understand that he feels for Noah a little bit deeper. And that's why I know it might still be a little early to talk about the wife, but I still find it interesting to see, because I almost was like, oh my gosh, I could see him trying to basically create like another wife character and like what could have happened there. And there could have been a lot more stuff there. But I found like the fact that he wanted to keep her alive. He wanted to keep her healthy. He wanted to keep her like he never operated on her, if I remember correctly.
No,
right?
He cut her butt cheeks off.
Did he?
Yeah, he took her butt.
I must have missed that part.
Yeah, that was early on.
I watched it between last night and this morning, so if I missed a scene or two,
I think it was after. So anyway, she kind of like this, and this is when this happens. He explains to her that, you know, I'm going to keep you alive for as long as I can because I want to harvest the meat fresh, and it's in my best interest to keep you comfortable and you know, content and all these, and I'm going to feed you well and all these sorts of things. She starts talking to the other another woman Penny through the wall, and then they even hear a third victim that's in an adjacent
Melissa
room
or something.
And then she lulls him into this this thing where she's basically calm at this point and she wants to take a shower. So on the way to taking a shower, she tries to run. He gets pissed, takes her back, and then puts her under and removes her. Okay,
that makes sense, because I pretty much split it up like almost at the hour mark, and I basically was like finished watching this morning, and I was like, she's limping now. Something happened. Yeah, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, so that makes total sense. But now that we were talking about it, I'm like, I feel like if I lost my butt and I just got that surgery, I would be doing a lot more than just limping.
Yeah. You don't know how much time has passed, but yes, I guess you do, because Molly says later it's like a week or something like that. So it's not a lot of time. But
like, people are in like the hospital for like a few days at least.
Yeah,
you know, not moving.
He is pumping her full of pain meds. He has been trying to keep her comfortable, so she is giving her pain meds, which I have not had my butt removed, so I can't tell you with 100% certainty how that feels. But also, imagine it's pretty traumatic.
Also, we don't know how much butt he takes. Like, it looks like a sizable amount because it's just like a real quick shot of him slapping something in a bowl. But you don't know how much butt he takes. But
it's not noticeable when she's wearing the dress either.
Right. That's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we never know. And they never give us like a good body horror shot of somebody without a butt. So
yeah,
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it was weird because the only time, and Kate and I were watching this last night, and the only time they really showcase, like, give you a look of her butt before is when he's looking at her in the mirror and she like walks to the bathroom when they wake up in the morning after they hooked up, and although it's in the mirror and it's like kind of, you know, out of focus, they do pretty prominently show her butt. And then later on, after, you know, when she's in that dress, it appears that she doesn't really have any protruding butt. So like, I think they did it. Yeah, no ass at all. And so I don't know how much of it was, CGI or you know, I don't know. I don't know how they did that, but anyway, it was pretty pretty chilling, because then she wakes up and, you know, a part of her is gone. You know what I mean? So it's like a weird, it's like a weird, like, very personal kind of violation of someone's body. You know what I mean? So it was very I don't know, very unsettling. But she kind of resides at this point to, I'm just gonna wait. Like, I'm gonna lull this dickhead into a false sense of security, and then she eventually starts to hatch this plan where essentially she is going to play him. You know what I mean?
Well, did you note that she found that magazine and she saw the like little like comment in it that
yes,
yeah. So,
and it said something like, if you're reading this, he likes you, like, stay alive or something like that, you know. And I thought we were going to learn, and we don't learn that this isn't the case, but I took it as it was his wife who wrote that.
That would make a lot of sense.
But
because we don't learn of any other women that were kept alive that long either. So
right.
Well, I mean, but what's her name next door? Penny. Yeah. Penny's been there for a while. But
she's not getting the same treatment as Noah.
No, she's not. I mean?
She's just getting slowly picked apart, pretty much.
Yeah. So she sees that, and then she starts to kind of formulate a plan a little bit that, like, I think I can start basically slowly chipping away at this guy's confidence to a point where I can get him to act against his best interest, kind of in the same way that she did early on, or against her better judgment rather. So meanwhile, Molly, her friend, does some pretty top flight sleuthing via the internet and finds out where this guy lives, goes to confront him. He's not home, talks to his wife, and she's very much played as like a victim at the beginning, like she doesn't know what's happening. But then, in, again, pretty chilling scene, as they're walking towards the door and she's basically like, hey, sorry, she calls, that is, Molly calls Noah's phone, and it rings in his pocket. And you think like he's caught, but no, she ends up getting smacked in the back of the head by his wife, because she is, of course, in on the whole thing as well.
For as much as like he's such an intelligent character, I felt like we needed that scene to get to the next scene, but I feel like if this was real life, he would not actually have her phone. Yeah,
probably not.
So
probably not.
So that kind of bugged me a little bit, but yeah, I knew we needed that scene. We needed her to catch him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Although, funny enough, the ringtone.
Yeah, what was the song?
The ringtone was the Golden Girls theme.
That's right. It was the Golden Girls theme. Yeah, I knew it was something very familiar.
Which it's just a funny way. Like I haven't kept a full catalog of all this, but a lot of our episodes seem to have links to each other, like in it very unintentionally, because like we said, we've never seen this film before, but the Golden Girls theme links back to Betty White from our last episode of Lake Placid,
of course, and our lengthy discussion about the Golden Girls.
And then that episode links back to our Showdown, because Natasha Malthae, which none of us would have known was in Lake Placid, was the star of Blood Rain too. So it's just funny. You can find like a lot of funny coincidences and links between our episodes if you look hard enough.
All right, Kevin Bacon.
The Halloween is Forever universe is ever expanding.
Yeah, Kevin's
and time,
in both Croc movies,
and time is a flat circle. I have been told as well. Now, I think it's actually after.
Yeah, it's going to be after that Molly gets clocked, but you see Anne is an amputee herself.
Yes, I couldn't remember if it was before or after, because they're sitting there at the kind of double vanity there. Yeah.
And and he says,
he's like,
good
it's going to be a
teamwork.
long day at the office. Yeah, good teamwork. Yep, that was it. I knew he said something. But in any case, you find out that she is an amputee, and you never learn that she was a victim of his, but it's strongly suggested.
Yeah.
But then at the end, which we're jumping way ahead here, but at the end, whenever Steve is killed, she just picks right up where he left off. She doesn't go like, "Oh my God, I'm free." And in fact, she actually goes as far as to use that to play possum to get the upper hand on them.
So there is a lot of great subtlety in this film, as far as just like things, just as far as shots and things that are shown that and maybe not shown. And one may come up later that we'll talk about. But there's a great shot where Anne, the wife, is in the bathroom looking in the vanity, and she's pulling her face back. Right. Like she wants the facelift. So Meg's already brought it up, but you can kind of infer that Steve is looking to maybe replace her with Noah, because Noah would be younger and, just get rid of Anne because she's not as fresh anymore as the tale would imply.
Right.
But I think also at this point, like, they're so steeped in this Illuminati culture because they do have two kids together. You never see them on camera, but you see them in Molly's investigation. She sees the two kids on Facebook. I think Anne's so steeped in this Illuminati culture that she's just looking to protect herself and her kids, perhaps, and just not be a victim of what would come from betraying them.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And there's also just the subtext of Anne realizing Noah was supposed to be her replacement and just wanting to take her out as well, just to punish her for, breaking up her family or hurting her status.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's why, I don't know, I did find myself very intrigued by her involvement, because it's like, maybe it's the Stockholm syndrome, but talking about her obsession with her face, maybe they met like, through a consultation or something, and he's just like, "Ooh, you'd be perfect." And then she doesn't seem very intelligent, but also maybe mildly that she became like power hungry. And maybe I almost for a little bit thought that she did kind of manage like the Illuminati relationship. And so like the whole like dynamic between them caused me to like have a lot of curiosity. That's why I think we need a prequel. Come on, guys, let's do it.
Yeah, that it's never 100% answered. That's for sure. In terms of like their backstory or anything like that. So there's a lot left to speculate. But
I'm just gonna put a TM on this entire episode for all of my my fan fiction ideas.
Yeah, eventually Noah shows just like, I mean, not just the actual performance in the film, but that's a tough gig. She's got to act like someone who's acting. You know what I mean? I'm always so impressed when people do that, like have that kind of Inception level acting performance when it's like she is acting a person who is acting and trying to give subtle nods to the fact that she's struggling to keep it together during her act kind of thing. But she does it, I thought, masterfully in both senses, because she delivers just like the right amount. And part of it's the cinematography and, them kind of zooming in on like her eyes and the little tiny like facial twitches and stuff she makes. But she basically convinces Steve that she is interested in eating people. So she does it very subtly at first, convinces him gains his trust. He feels 100% kind of in power of her, mentally and emotionally. Meanwhile, she is kind of, hiding, in the, she's like one of those fish that bury themselves under the sand and then jump up and grab your ass right when you kind of least expect it. So eventually she gets the jump on him in the best way. Like she just, now I'm escaping. It's escaping me what she actually stabs him with.
Well, she doesn't stab him.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yes. I knew it was an amazing.
Yeah, she stabs the wife later on, but yeah, she doesn't stab him.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was I just wrote down. That was fucking amazing. But then I was like, what was amazing? I knew it was amazing, but what was it? She eventually, like I said, goes through this whole kind of thing where she's giving him all this perceived power of like she's going through this emotional turmoil of being a victim of cannibalism, but then also wanting, being interested in it. And she's like, I have so many feelings, and and he feels like he is kind of on the right track to, grooming her into, his kind of partner type figure or whatever his relationship with his, wife, or they never really suggest wife for sure. But yeah, she is the next kind of, potential person to fill that role. And just when they start, and I really loved that the kind of seduction scene that happens is a complete role reversal, even so much so as like her on top, like kissing down his chest, like it's just a complete switch. So when he goes, she goes down on him and bites his damn dick off. And
I was very excited about this. I was like, she's gonna fucking do it. She's gonna fucking do it. Yeah.
Yeah. You just like, for whatever reason, I mean, just like the film like lulled you into this, like, this feeling earlier where you're like, well, he's not really gonna drug her. This time around, you're like, she's not really gonna bite his dick off, is she? And then she does. You're like, oh fuck, yeah, she did.
See, I felt it was more the other way. It's like, she's not really like into this. Like she's not really doing the switch. Like she's just making him vulnerable.
Yes, I definitely knew that. Yeah. But you didn't know if he was going to stab her or she was going to stab him, what she was going to do. Bites his dick straight off, which is...
I guess it's just because, like, for me, like, she had so many other opportunities. Because, like, maybe she could have stabbed him at dinner. Maybe she could have stabbed him anywhere. But she waits till she gets him that absolute most vulnerable.
Well, because and again, that's exactly what he did to her. There were so many times where he could have just grabbed her ass and threw her in the car. Or, I mean, obviously, he slept at her house the first time. Like, he was this like very patient predator the whole time, and she took that same thing and flipped it around on him. And then, of course, she runs in and frees the other, victims there, which is Penny, and then Molly is in the other room because she had identified Molly's cell phone whenever he was kind of showing her all the, kind of trophies from his victims, or more to the point, they were like trophies for the people that he was going to be selling the victims to. And then in one of the better scenes, one of the better moments when they kind of get the jump on him, and they Penny, who is the other victim she'd been talking to through the wall, who has one leg at this point, comes out of the dumbwaiter and just boots his ass with the one remaining leg. And then this big ass melee happens in the kitchen. Ultimately, he's like knocked unconscious. He's not done. Horror movie logic. They're like, well, he's dead. And I wanted to be like, get that meat mallet that you had and just flatten his head out. Right. Like just make his head into fucking Rocky Road ice cream.
I thought Molly, I thought she fucked him up. I thought she killed him. Yeah. And she could have done it. I mean, she definitely did not hesitate bashing Anne's head in too far ahead. But I was a little surprised. But I think it was definitely the montage of the chase and all of that. One less.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it didn't play as well, but like I think like in the end, Sebastian Stan has some makeup on and everything, and like his eye is knocked out of socket. So, it's hard to tell because there's a lot of shadows when they're running through the trees and stuff at night. But
I mean, they fucked him up for sure.
Yeah. So we're kind of in this area of the story, and I'm wondering if either of you picked up on it. And this is part of subtlety again with this film. Did you realize that Sebastian Stan fed Molly's breasts to Noah?
Yeah.
Or
at least
I
one
caught
of
onto
them.
that. Yeah, because I was like, when she started like being like, "Oh, my boob," I'm like, "Man, you just ate your best friend's boob."
Well, that's
I
what
mean,
Kate
if
said.
I'd want to eat anyone's boob, I'd be my best friends, like in
That's
a
what I
loving way.
I was wondering, or Kate was saying, like, because the movie does end pretty abruptly, which we're not quite there yet, but we're kind of spiraling towards that. Kate was like, wouldn't it have been great when they're sitting out in the woods, just after they'd killed both of them, and Noah was just like, I ate your boob. But she doesn't know necessarily that it was it, but she's bound to obviously find out. She may have had some suspicions that was the case. But
that's the day 2 of like getting over the trauma. You're like, yeah, no, you like cut off my boob. And she's like, oh my God, I fucking ate a boob. It was your, you know what I mean? Like it would have been that.
I mean, it's only like 3 points of connection to make in that Sebastian Stan says, like when they're eating it, he says, it might even taste a little familiar with like a hard wink.
I missed that.
Yeah, he makes it's a real hard wink.
It kind of looked like, I feel like I just was like looking and I wanted to call it like boob tartare. Like it just looks like that.
Yeah, they did a good job of even like the meatball that she eats, which is the first thing. It's just a perfectly nice looking meatball.
Yeah.
But just they are so effective at placing that that like level of grotesqueness in your mind that you're just like, you're making this extremely delicious looking meatball make me want to barf right now.
Did either of you see the Hannibal TV show when it was on?
No,
I did not. No.
Okay, so this film does a lot of the same things that TV show did. Of like, there's a lot of dinner scenes in Hannibal. That show is great. Go back and watch it if you can. But
people have told me that because I even love the Red Dragon and all the sequels to Silence of the Lambs. I really enjoy those movies. But
go back. I have no idea how it made it on NBC. It was so disgusting because it's a lot of the same things of like making meat both like looking succulent and disgusting because it's people and it is vile, but also like delicious at the same time. And like this movie carries that torch from that show. But go back and watch that show. It's fantastic.
I feel like the next Halloween we should have a Halloween. Hey, no, actually, Brian, your next birthday, let's have a cannibal themed birthday party, but not actually people, but like make food that looks very decadent
but not
and just
actually
pretend
people.
like it's people. I'll make boob tartare.
My aunt used to love to do that thing where she would always make foods look like body parts. She would even do like the punch with she would get like a rubber glove and freeze the ice in the rubber glove so it looked like there was a hand in the punch and stuff like
throw
that.
the gumball eyeballs in there.
Yes. Everything had fingers and eyeballs and all that stuff in it. But I thought, and again, we're talking about the writing and the characters and the performances, but great sound design. Too. Really great sound design, really creepy soundtrack too.
I was looking at that too because he does I'm gonna pull it up so I don't misquote. Alex Summers.
Yeah, Alex Summers. And he doesn't seem to have like many horror credits to his name, which it was just very interesting because like everything that isn't a licensed song, which they do some great music choices as well with that. But everything that isn't a licensed song, that's just like he creates some nice dreamy scapes in the beginning for when their relationship is starting, but then everything in the times of peril are just like strange strings, and it's very creepy and it's very weird. It's great.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. Is I also picked up that his partner plays with Sigur Rós, and he's like done some producer work with him, and I think that's pretty fucking cool because I feel like you kind of get those type of feels with.
That makes a lot. That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one I wasn't, not that I didn't like it, but it just felt a little too American Psycho-y to me was like when he is, doing the whole like singing and stuff while like the scene that I was talking about with the performance is fine. And I think he does a good job of like showing his like disconnect, with everything. But, the what I call like the Nicolas Cage type of scene, they play some sort of like kind of yacht rocky type of song. I forget what it is, but it does feel, the whole thing feels a little I think it's American Psycho.
It's the song. It's like My Obsession.
Yeah.
You're my obsession. Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't bad or anything, but it just I couldn't help but picture Christian Bale,
right.
Kind of, but I did like this too as well, and this was kind of another good like kind of just bypassing, or betraying your expectations a little bit, where Molly does all the sleuthing to find out where Noah is and ultimately gets herself caught as well. But the way that she finds his name is by, she had his picture because Noah took a picture of him when he was sleeping, which at that point you're still like, is Noah the creep here? You know what I mean? So you're not 100% sure, but it comes back around in a very a way that I didn't see coming, which was so that she could go to the place where they had the date, and she had dated the bartender, and showed him that, and basically talked him into looking up his credit card transaction and getting his name. But the whole time you're going like, okay, he's going to come save the day now because he is like, he can see where Molly is on, I don't know, whatever app they share or something like that. And he's trying to call her. She won't answer. He starts to get worried. He gets there right at kind of the climax of the movie where they're escaping. He hears gunshots and yelling. And you're like, oh, really? After all this, like the dude's going to come save the day? And then it's like, he just goes, nope, fuck this noise, and he leaves her.
Yeah.
He just completely leaves,
good.
and you never see him again.
I thought it was an almost like a wasted scene. I mean, I feel like there should have been some involvement, but I found it interesting. They decided to be like, no, he's making the choice to say fuck this shit and leaving. And it's not like, I almost thought that maybe they would like run into the car when they were running away. That's literally what went through my head, but it's interesting that none of that happened. I'm curious about the choices.
I took it as it was them kind of poking fun at the trope of no matter how like, badass your female, protagonist is, there's always a guy that's going to come save the day.
Right.
And I feel like this was them just kind of spitting in the face of that trope. And just saying, no,
I could definitely see that too.
Dude's a fucking coward. He left. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
well, I mean, they're doing that throughout the whole movie with like making fun of having literally a Chad be named Chad and doing very Chad-like things, which, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's a good point. I'll go with it.
Yeah. No, it definitely would have cheapened the film. Like had that bartender who has very little connection to them save the day. That would have cheapened it, but it's way funnier, again, because this is a dark comedy. It's way funnier for him to say, oh, I know the ending of this movie. Fuck all this. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He pulls the old Derek from Scream 2 and says, nope.
Yeah, exactly. He just bolts. So getting towards the end here, they eventually, Steve comes out again. He's all fucked up. His eye is completely fucked. He's blood all over his face kind of thing. And he is chasing them out through this kind of, I don't know, it's basically like the yard, of the property. And they eventually get the jump on him again, beat the shit out of him. Eventually, Noah gets a hold of the gun and she goes, give me a smile kind of thing, which he had said to her, which is a call back to what he had said to her. And she kind of had to like put on the face and just for the sake of survival at that moment. And she just fucking shoots him right in the fucking eye, she fucking Mo Greens him, which is great.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
And then I keep forgetting his wife's name,
Anne.
Anne. That's right. Anne comes out with the guy who you had only seen as, he appears to be some sort of like bodyguard / courier, but he is very much in on the whole thing. In fact, he's the one who's transporting the human meat in some capacity.
Booty pets.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she comes out and is like, and this is the point that's really interesting to me, because you almost think that she's going to be like, oh, like, I'm free. He's dead. I can get the fuck out of this life. Mm-hmm. And even when he tells her, like, we got to clean this up, and he tells like the bodyguard or whoever he is, we got to clean this up, get him out of here, whatever. You're even like, is she still acting under, in some sort of self-preservation? And then she sees, is it Noah or Molly? She sees one of
Noah, because Noah comes back for her phone.
That's right. Yeah. No, yes. The three of them, Noah, Molly, and Penny, are looking to escape. They're trying to get into this like what is that building?
They don't try to just break into a barn.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what their end game was there. No. But then she's like, I'm gonna go get my phone. And why did they let her go by herself? I don't know. That was really the only
Penny
part in the
couldn't
movie.
go anywhere, so I think they didn't want to leave Penny alone. So
yeah, and she was trying to get her phone. But anyway, so they separate her. Anne comes up to oh my gosh, how can I say Molly, to Noah, and is like, he's dead. We're free. Blah blah blah. Kind of plays in her sympathy, like she's being victimized as well. But in reality, kind of gets the jump on her, starts choking her. She stabs her in the neck with the keys, which was great. And then ultimately, Molly just brains her with the shovel, and just makes her head all squished up. Yeah, and then they're just kind of chilling out. But what was there was a final line, but I didn't write it down.
Yeah, it was like it was actually two funny quick jokes. There was a funny line between the two of them, and then the Chad you up text. But I forget what the...
Yeah.
Let me...
Yeah, there was a good little line right at the end, and that was the one where Kate was like, she should have been like, I think I ate your boob.
Right.
Like, at that moment. But you know what? Can't all be perfect. But it does end very abruptly.
Noah didn't know who that was. So she asked Molly, who the hell was that? Yeah. And Molly says, that was his wife. And then Noah's upset that he was married the whole time.
Yeah.
She's like,
that's
his
right.
wife.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate fear, because she kind of like, I think it was, it even harkens back to earlier when Noah was first telling Molly about it, just like, oh, he must be married type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. She called that earlier on.
Yeah. So I think it was just kind of one of those things like, of course he is type.
Yeah. Joke. Yeah. But and then you get the Chad you up text, which is also very funny because just
oh my gosh,
it's just Chad completely unaware of what's going on in somebody else's life, and just but it's still very Chad.
Yeah, and also the fact that they ended their date with him being like,
"Fuck you, you stupid bitch!
You stuck up bitch!" Yeah, and then he's like,
God.
"You up." So.
Dating apps, don't go on them.
See, I missed all that. I'm happy. I've never been on a dating app, so I missed that whole thing by like a couple
40
years.
minutes, and I thought it was the worst thing on the planet.
Yeah.
One time, I didn't like it.
I didn't like it.
Never again.
So I wanted to talk about the house for a minute. Just because the house is really cool. Like, the house...
It was pretty neat, yeah.
It's this, like, you mentioned it already, Brian, but it's like this mid-century mansion, in a way. But it also has, like, a very 70s retro aesthetic, which in general the film does between the soundtrack and just, a lot of other things going on with it.
Sure.
But I think I like the house because it adds to the lore of all these Illuminati things going on. Because I don't think this is Steve's house. I think it was given to him by the Illuminati, and the one
specifically to do this work.
And I think the one clue that really cements that is there's a scene where Steve is outside of the house, and he's cutting up ribs with a saw, and then it's framed through this like runic archway that has like a Baphomet statue in it, and it's something that looks very old that's been sitting there for a long time because it's all overgrown. It does. So I think this is something that exists for a while.
And even to this to that same point earlier, when you get these quick little glimpses of the rich Illuminati guys eating their human meat, they're doing it in all these like perverse ways. Like one of them is like has a dog collar on, is like eating it off a plate like he's a dog, and then one of it looks like the rich Texan from The Simpsons, and then another one looks like a very stereotypical like Asian businessman. So there's all these characters, and one of them who has like who kind of looks like this like South American drug lord type. He is eating off a plate, and when he's cutting it, you look, and there is a like satanic emblem on his plate.
Right. Yeah. And that emblem is on it's on envelopes and things that Steve's sending out, and then it even comes up in the credits. And I think that's a cool detail. And Meg has been talking about how she wants a prequel, but I also want more from this world.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah.
I also think like we get an idea of when he's talking to Noah at dinner about how he got into this, and that he somehow found this group of people. So that kind of, I could see that being a thing where, especially like all the pieces coming together, where he found this group of people who are already doing it and already have this world. It was not something that he created.
Right. And he says he gets into it at around like 18, 19. So you can imagine that they're the ones who put him through medical school to become the new Dr. Butcher, which is also a movie.
Sense, yeah.
Dr. Butcher.
No,
Samurai,
I'm even
Samurai
more
Dr.
curious
Butchers
about that. Like
Samurai Dr. Butchers from Mars.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna pin it here, saying that yes, Fresh, give us a prequel or give us more.
Give us something.
We want to know more. I think it has potential. It has legs.
Yeah.
For a person though, and again, this is nitpicky, but for a person who has spent time working in grocery stores, you have unlimited resources, all the bells and whistles in the world for your fancy, human butchery. But you got to go outside and use a chainsaw. You can't buy the guy a freaking bandsaw like every butcher in the world has.
Maybe it's
buy the
like
man a bandsaw.
Maybe it's like a thing that's like part of his process. Maybe kind of like when you're preparing your meal, you need to go through all the different rigorous little things that you're like that make it all worth eating it. That's how I saw that. That's how I saw it.
I think the chainsaw is just a lot of wasted. I think it's the writer not doing her due diligence of finding out how butchers work, because the chainsaw you're gonna lose so much meat.
You're gonna shred that thing with a chainsaw.
Yeah. Maybe you got some ground meat on the ground that is like being picked up by like a plastic chute or something. I can't remember exactly what was underneath them. Yeah, it's like you send it off. Like that's not wasted meat, Steve. It goes somewhere.
Ground meat doesn't have to be ground meat. That's all I'm saying. It just pissed me off because, like I said, every little shitty butcher in the world has a bandsaw, and that's how you cut up steaks. That's how you parse out once you break down primals, that's how you parse out individual cuts and steaks. So
even if he did it with a handsaw or even maybe a sawzall, it's just chainsaw.
Yeah.
Chainsaw is so messy.
Chainsaw is like just the width of the blade, and it's just gonna anything you cut with a chainsaw, you are going to be covered in. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know.
So what these guys are basically saying is that if you're a butcher, don't watch this movie, you're going to be upset because these are non-butchers being upset about this.
Yeah. Listen, if you're a butcher, you're going to get triggered. Anyway, overall, great movie. Far exceeded expectations for me. Creepy, effective, well performed, good writing. Good like I have besides the stupid little nitpicky things that I'm saying here, I will absolutely watch this movie again. I really, really like this movie.
One more thing to watch out for on this film. It is just like a production thing, and to watch in other horror films as well is a lot of when people light films, they use eye lights. And the eye lights help the eyes pop, and it gives people more humanity. And so there's eye lights on Steve in the beginning of the film, but after the turn, they start removing his eye lights in a lot of scenes.
Oh,
and
interesting.
And it's very, very, very apparent in the last dinner scene, in which Noah has her eyes are darkened, but she still has very bright, popping, vibrant eye lights that still like kind of reflect the humanity in her eyes. And then Steve's eyes are completely black.
Interesting.
So it's a neat
I'll have
thing
to look for that next time. Yeah,
That's
this was overall just like I said, really well thought out. Like, just for me, listen, kudos to Hulu, because I will absolutely be more apt to check out Hulu originals because of this movie, because this I thought this movie was fucking great. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of 2022 if this isn't near certainly in my top 10. Like, I would be surprised if it wasn't for the year.
So are you ready to go back and watch the Hulu original Vacation Friends with John Cena?
I am not a Cena guy personally. Listen, I get it. I understand. He, icon of the wrestling world. Do not like Cena. And also, one time I heard Cena say something bad about The Rock, and I am fucking mad about it still. By the way, we did not mention R.I.P. Scott Hall.
R.I.P. I was kind of curious if you were going to say anything.
Yeah.
That was a freaking bummer.
It's a bummer. And it's cool. It's cool, though, that like he was able to live, because he had so many problems with like drugs and alcohol and everything. It was so cool that he got his life together for the time that he did, and was able to enjoy a lot of the things like going into the Hall of Fame, and like just being present for a lot of things.
I'm almost positive I saw when I was like getting into DDP that he did kind of work with DDP with that type of stuff.
DDP,
which I think is really cool.
Yeah, DDP had really like a sober house almost for him and Jake the Snake. And like,
he was having them do his yoga too, which is cool. So it got like them from being like pretty immobile and to a point of like they could actually move their bodies again, which was cool. Yeah. Which is great.
And for him to first of all, I was talking about this last night when I saw it, I was like, oh fuck, that's such a bummer. And Kate was like, how old was he? I said he was 63, and she was like, oh, that's so young. And I was like, that's like 120 in wrestling years.
Yeah.
Like, that is actually ripe old age for wrestlers, and I don't say that lightly. It just, that's an unfortunate reality. That's pretty darn old for a wrestler, especially a wrestler that started in the 80s.
Right.
But I was gonna say, I hope that wrestlers now don't really like face that same future, but you never know. You're still doing a lot of damage to your body.
It feels, I mean, if you just look at the average, I don't know, I'm sure somebody out there has this kind of mapped out, but the average size of wrestlers now versus then, like some of these people, I mean, like if you put CM Punk in the ring with during the 94 Royal Rumble, he would look like a child. Like, these people, they're huge. Of course, you look at the Ultimate Warrior and stuff, it's like you can actually physically see the steroids oozing out of his pores. You know what I mean? Like, it was a different world, obviously, but R.I.P. to the bad guy, one of the all-time greats. That has nothing to do with the movie we watched, but that was a bummer.
Or
that was
does
a bummer,
it?
but Actually,
let's find a link.
Yeah. Guys, if you can figure out some, 7 Degree of Kevin Bacon situation to connect Scott Hall to the movie, the 2022 Hulu original, Fresh, I will send you all the stickers you want.
And you can't say that Scott Hall was in the NWO and the NWO is the people in charge of the people meet. You can't say that.
You should. You absolutely should. Or you can't say something about like he was in the Wolf Pack and the Wolf Pack, are meat eater, are meat eaters or something. Anyway, any final thoughts on Fresh? I keep wanting to call it Flesh now.
Right.
Meg.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I thought it was a fun movie. It definitely, I think in ways I was almost like, does this feel like super original? And I'm kind of like, yes and no, but like the story still was intriguing enough to me that I was like invested and I want more. So that was cool.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see more from this world, and I like like Meg was saying, it's not totally original, but like the comedic beats are like funny and somewhat unexpected, and just it does a lot of good things, and like we were talking about the subtleties that you may or may not catch, but you'll definitely know now that we've talked about them. So
Yeah.
Weird.
Fun movie. Check it out if you got the Hulus. If not, you could probably no, it's Hulu original because it's probably only on Hulu. I don't know that for sure, but I would assume that to be the case. But it is absolutely worth checking out. So cool. Also, hey, don't forget next week's Minisode, tune in and we'll tell you what movies we are going to pick for our Showdown episode once that Showdown has been Showdown topic has been decided, which, like I said, we may or may not insert into this here episode.
Bigfoot movies.
But again, if you haven't already, follow us over on the social medias. Just type in Halloween is Forever somewhere. It'll pop up. It's a damn little pixelated pumpkin guy. And you know what? It's going to be April after this upcoming Showdown, which we're discussing now. After April comes May. May, it's almost summer, and summer means it's almost Halloween. So I think we're gonna pretty soon have to start thinking about spooky season once again, guys. I mean, for me, it starts in the summer. It kicks off full blast in mid-August.
Yeah.
And then it goes the whole way through the rest of August, September, and of course October. So just saying, if you've got ideas, if you've got the themes, if you've got topics, if you've got Minisode ideas, anything pertaining to the spooky season, also throw those our way because, goddamn, it's going to be here before we know it. And I was already poking around on the Etsy for some Halloween decorations earlier this week. Usually, I would say April, May is when I start buying my first Halloween decorations. Because if you wait until like August, September, all the good stuff's gone. Guys, just get your
pro tip over here from Brian.
Step your fucking
Plus,
game up.
You're not getting the good deals. You're not getting the good deals.
No, everything's getting chalked up. You buy Halloween decorations in March, they want them out of their inventory. So you are getting them fucking rock bottom prices, boys and ghouls. I'm always looking for a deal. Anything else that I'm forgetting?
Nope.
That's about it. Well, holy shit. Check us out next week where we're going to do another mini-sode and we're going to discuss the movies we are going to do for our next Showdown for the Halloween is Forever crew. I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve, but not that Steve.
Brr.